Okay, we'll call Public Works and Planning Committee to order. Mr. Stephen, do you want to say a prayer?
Sure. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the blessings of today. We're thankful for this opportunity that we have to serve our constituents in our county. Father, I pray that you'll bless us with wisdom tonight as we make decisions, and that we'll use our best discretion and pure motives as we listen to these reports and make the decisions for our constituents. Father, we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, first up be landfill solid waste.
Have to approve the minutes.
Approve minutes first.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and second approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll go to landfill solid waste.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Thank you.
It's warm weather, so things are getting busy. First, we'll start with the landfill report. Everything's still going well at the landfill. I talked to a tire dealer today. He just happened to be at the landfill when I was out there about the tire issue we're going to have. And ran some ideas by him to see what he thought. And my thought was that we'd try to have a meeting with all the tire dealers that will come to explain what situation we're in and try to make it the best for both worlds. Everybody's going to lose a little bit, but maybe we'll share in that loss. And he understood our plight, and he thought a meeting, set a meeting, give everybody the opportunity to come voice their opinion. He says, "Does our opinion count?" I said, "Yes, it counts." Now, I don't know if it'll sway us or not, but it does count. I'd mentioned the possibility of them collecting tires for us. He said that he didn't think that would go. He's here in Murfreesboro, and he said last week somebody dropped 100 tires off on him over the weekend. So that was what we thought may be a problem. Well, they already have that problem, so we don't want to
add to it.
Right, it just make that worse. But everything else at the landfill is going well. We're going to try to set up a meeting mid to late this month to get everything going on our pond, our sediment pond addition, and get that going. And then at the same time, TDEC will be out there to help us, determine what we're going to do, not do, and all that. At the same time, we'll look at the methane wells that are not existing anymore, and look at trying to get that done. It may not get that done in this budget, but we'll look at that. And the next page is, we actually had 2 inspections in the month of April, both of them good. And we're ready for the convenience center report, unless you have a landfill question. Convenience centers have been extremely busy, and I've got to give credit to our drivers. When it's a pretty weekend like the last couple of weekends we've had, they have to be really conscious and cautious to keep the center from closing. We've got extra containers that we call the hill yard. If you go up to Rutherford County Landfill, before you get to our gate to the right, you'll see an enclosed area with a lot of normally empty containers. Depending on what we've got damaged and in repair, we've got almost 40 extra containers. Half of them's open top, the other half are compactors. 2 weeks ago, we used every container we had, swapped out everything we could swap out. We had one truck broken down on the yard that had an open top on it. When all the convenience centers called in Sunday afternoon, that open top on the truck was the only empty container in the entire county. We started out this week, Monday morning, with 151 loads. Just checked the answer machine a while ago. We've got 71 loads still to haul. Of course, they generate while they're open. So the busy weekends, we have had centers closed. We try our best not to. This past weekend, they ran out of open tops, but the packers were still running, so they would still take trash. But if you came in with a pickup truckload of stuff, there's a lot of times you couldn't dump it. And they may know the other center closest if they still had room and send you that direction. But we're going to have to look at, in the future, what we're going to do. How we're going to manage that situation. Are we going to buy more containers and possibly more trucks and drivers? We're going to change our service hours. I mean, that's just some things we're going to look at. I don't think it's anything we need to try to schedule tonight or try to change tonight, but I just want you to think about it. And at our Haley Road location, we had a bid opening for electronics contract. Middle of the month, wasn't it, Jack? We took that bid under advisement. We still don't have another meeting set up to hand it out. Had two bidders. Both of them have contacted me asking where we stand, and I just told them it's under advisement. We'll, the next meeting we'll let you know who's going to do that. But both of them are going to cost us some money. One of them was 15 cents per pound for all the televisions and all the computer monitors, and that was all. They weren't going to pay us for anything. The other one was 12 cents a pound for televisions and monitors and 7 cents a pound for the flat screen type things. And then there's some money in there to pay for different items, but you have to separate it and have it all, one Gaylord full of one particular thing. And the way they've got it set up is we can separate as much as we want to or as little as we want to. If we don't separate anything and put it all in the miscellaneous, it's a penny a pound. Cell phones, there's $3 a pound. But there's few cell phones as we get, it'd take 2 or 3 years to fill up a Gaylord box full. So that wouldn't be worth the space to try to do that. But so tires and electronics is still going to be a big issue for us that we're going to have to work through in the next several months and try to get that tackled. But other than that, everything's still going well.
Whenever you do decide you want to add an additional convenience center, what kind of lead time do you need on something like that?
I don't really see us adding another convenience center.
I'm just curious how long it takes to open one.
They are actually permitted. They're actually
Okay.
permitted through TDEC. So you'd have to do the site location. They'd have to approve the location, and then you'd have to do all the prep work, site work, and all that. So it would take months. If we decided not we were going to do one, it may be 8 or 9 months before you could actually
That's
get
about
it.
what I guessed. I was just curious.
And that's if everything went well.
Yeah.
Where are you looking for adding one at?
We're not looking at adding another center. The state, the way they determine how many centers you need is based either two ways you can calculate it, one on population, the other one on square miles. So we do the population, we do our count based on square miles, because that's not going to change. Population keeps going up. We've got, I think, 5 more centers than we're required to have. The only way you can not have a center at all would be have 95+% of the population with curbside service. And we're nowhere close to that. I think Sumner County is about the only county that has that. They don't have a convenience center. So my suggestion would be to close on Sundays, open on Thursday, because the landfill's closed. They close normally at 11. 2 weeks ago when they kept us open, they kept it open an hour longer, and we had an extra truck running. We had 7 trucks on the street that Saturday. We dumped 7 loads in that last hour, and that kept us from closing down the center on Sunday.
You said you prefer closing on Sundays and open on Thursdays. Isn't Sunday a big day?
It's the busiest day, but it's the day that we can't dump any trash. And see what happens to us, all those loads that you fill up on the hill yard, you spend all afternoon Saturday and then all day Sunday putting those full loads up there. And then it'd take, it takes 5 drivers all day Sunday to put them up there. So it would take 4 drivers at least just to get them all dumped at the landfill. So we're double handling those loads. And if you figure the trucking cost on it, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $250,000 a year just to double handle those loads.
I mean, I understand that, but my concern would be the citizenry out there. Somehow that's the busiest day, and that's what a lot of times, all the time they got to do it.
Big worry would be getting a bunch of trash in different places.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be, anytime you change, it's going to be a struggle. But we're going to have to look at doing something different. We cannot continue exactly the way we are with the growth that we're having.
Yeah, but most time, if you're looking where any kind of bid and anything else, where's the busiest part of you that's going on? You need to try to handle it.
Well, and see, the other side to it, because if we've looked at it, if you gear up for your busiest day, like the last 2 pretty weekends were really, really busy. So if you put in enough equipment to handle that, and then it's a rainy weekend like it will be this weekend, then you got people with nothing to do. So you really can't gear up for the busiest time you're going to have and sustain that. It's gonna cost too much money.
Well, if it turned around and rained on other days through the week, be the same deal.
It does. I mean, if it rains during the week, it slows down. But we've gotta look at doing something a little bit differently from what we're doing.
When you say gearing up and then they might not have anything to do, can you not send them home?
You can send them. But then, you know, if you've got a guy scheduled, say you're scheduled to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 10-hour days, and we run out of something to do, and then either you're gonna have to take vacation or go without pay. And we've done that. We don't do it very often.
And without enough equipment, you wouldn't be able to use him to pick up hours on a pretty day. Like you couldn't have,
You could try to
Yeah.
reschedule him
Yeah.
one day, but, you know,
Yeah.
Sunday is the last day of our work week.
right,
You know, so if you send him home on Sunday,
Gotcha.
then
He drops it
he's
that
done,
week.
yeah, he's done for the week.
no simple solutions there.
No, there isn't. I mean, but there's options. It just depends on how we want to try to handle it.
Well, I move that we approve this report.
Second.
Anybody got any more questions, John? Motion made, say all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Y'all have a good evening.
Thank
Thank you.
Building codes.
Mr. Chairman,
David?
Commissioners.
Building Codes Department report for April. We issued 318 permits. Fees taken in, $107,358 for building permits, $9,450 for plumbing permits, $1,025 for gas permits, for a total collected $117,833. On the back of that report is our monthly totals. And we've issued 270 single-family dwellings this year. Last 4 months of last year, we issued 218, so we're up 52 single-family dwellings. Total this year for total permits, 878, and last year's total 804 for 74 more permits issued this year. As you can see, our totals for April for single-family dwellings was 117 permits. Big jump because of our building codes, our new codes. We went to the 2012 and the 2009 energy code, so a lot of people are gonna get them in before the new regulations started. So probably 50 more single families than what we should have had, but
We figured that though.
yeah, we figured all that was that one was coming. But our total should be good this year. We're still having good activity in the county. The next report is our property maintenance inspections. We performed 126 inspections for property maintenance. Mostly was open storage, as you can see at the top of the category. The next lines were 3 BZA or conditional use inspections, 36 signs picked up, total of 39 in that category. 29 new cases for April, 27 closed cases. The next report is our development tax collections. $436,500 was collected by the Building Codes Department, $63,000 by the Planning Department, total of $499,500. The far right gives us our collected total for this budget year, $3,480,750, and that is 2 months to go. We've already surpassed last year's collections.
David, is that the reason that's so much increase in April over like March? Was it apartments or something in some areas?
Yeah, there'd been several apartments this year, quite a few. This year, as you can see, the highest collected area for April was $288,750 for the city of Murfreesboro. 48 apartments on the old Las Casas Highway close to the college over there. And also apartments jump in there and give us a big
Yeah.
portion of that.
Right.
That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Gotta get any more questions?
Motion to approve the report.
Second.
Motion made and second, approve the reports, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, Doug.
Evening, Commissioners. Hello. I'll just make the announcement again. Somehow, my main report didn't make it onto the iPad. I'm not sure how that happened, so I apologize for that. But the second memo and the available lot report is on there, so I'll just kind of go over those just real briefly. Have before you, first of all, recorded plat lot inventory. You'll see on the back of the last page there, we're down to 895 available lots. You can see that is a decrease from last year, about 105 lot difference. So we're still seeing that downward trend. I think a good portion of that was probably due to what David was talking about just a moment ago with the new building code adoption. That made this a little more time consuming than he is trying to make sure all the lots were accounted for. But so I'm not sure what kind of activity we'll see next month, but we are still seeing that downward trend. So just a little FYI on that.
I'd say the next couple of months probably even itself out since they went and got the permit.
I would say you're probably right, yes, sir. We have two zoning hearings for you today, or next week to talk about tonight. The first is a piece of property along Thompson Road. It's part of what was and still is part of the Pinnacle Hills subdivision. It's about 34 acres. The applicant's asking to zone that to a planned unit development. The original development was just a traditionally zoned property. Originally was approved back in May of 2006. It was originally consisting of 155 single-family homes on 117 acres. They have recorded the final plats for Section 1s, and there are a number of homes out there. But with some of the difficulties they were having with some of the areas in the subdivision, what they decided to do is kind of leave those areas and then ask for a little bit of a density increase in the area that they're asking for rezoning. So the 34 acres they're asking for a planned development is for 95 lots, which is a 30-lot difference from the original 65 lots in that area. Now, because of the fact that they have run into some difficulties with some of the terrain in the area and the rock, there are some areas that they're not going to develop, so really it's pretty much a wash as to what they were going to get originally as opposed to what they're going to get now. When you look at the entire subdivision, it's just a few lot difference, I think actually a few lots less. They are proposing to use the same restrictive covenants that were approved during the original subdivision. You'll see your comments in the paper copy there. It'll say 1,700 to 2,500 square feet. The original, or at least the restricted covenants under now are actually 1,400 to 2,500. They are going to stay with that, so that is a little bit of a change from what they had originally proposed. They did have a neighborhood meeting out there in January, about January 29th of this year. There were several people that did come and attend, and they had they relayed some concerns that they had, and the applicant did make some changes to the pattern book to help accommodate that. Namely, one of the new streets that's going to hit Thompson Road, having the materials of those houses be all brick, and then when you get back to the other areas of the subdivision, it would be more of a traditional, what you see in the existing subdivision. The reason this took a little time getting to you was they were having some issues with their lot widths and also their depth of setback. They're asking for a reduced setback originally. CUD, Consolidated Utility, was having some issues locating the step tanks. This subdivision is on a step system. Putting the septic tanks in the front yard with the reduced setback was going to cause them some issues in some of the other subdivisions that were planned developments approved that way. So after some discussion over a couple of months, they finally decided to go ahead and just use a 35-foot setback. Originally, they were looking at a 20-foot. So that was the big reason that this application's actually been on the books now since about December or January of this year.
Refresh my memory, I know I met with them, I can't remember though, but what is the distances between one house and another as far as exposure problems for fire protection?
I think it's 15 feet.
Is it-
That's
is it
what we,
15?
yeah,
Okay.
in our ordinance, we do require a minimum of 50
Right.
feet. Unless, if they want to go closer, they have to take, provisions as far as, fire protection, fire rated walls, those kind of things.
I want to make sure that we
15.
wouldn't get down closer.
Right. No, this
Then
is.
you got exposure problems.
Right, this is still 15 feet, I understand.
15 feet between structures or 15 feet off the
Structure,
property?
between structures.
But not off the property line?
Not off the property, no, ma'am.
Yeah. It's be 7.5 on each
Right,
side.
Basically
right,
7.5
that's what I was
each side,
thinking.
right.
Just wanna make sure.
And I'll say that, in the pattern book, I'm gonna say they call that out in here, let me just see if I can't put my hand on it real fast. Let's see. Yeah, 7.5-foot minimum side setback and then a minimum 15-foot building separation. So that's actually called out in the
Yeah.
pattern book itself. Really, the biggest discussion that they had at the Planning Commission was with the size of the homes and how it complied with the existing covenants in the subdivision. There was some discussion about that. Again, they were using the same ones that are currently in the subdivision. So after some discussion, ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this by unanimous vote. The other application we have is actually a staff request, and it's for an ordinance amendment. This has to do with, and this memo is it's on your tables, I passed it out, it's also on the iPad. This is something that we identified in our 2014 work schedule that we wanted to provide some amendments to the Planning Commission and ultimately the Board of Commissioners for their approval. Child care centers are defined in our ordinance as establishments that provide care for 13 or more pre-teenage children. They're classified as general personal services and are allowed in the office professional zone and all the commercial, industrial, and other zones, but not the residential zones. Now, community assembly uses, which typically we see churches in, a lot of the times will have child care centers on site. Now, we inadvertently, when we did the ordinance, it wasn't our intent, but when we structured it the way we did for child care centers, not to be allowed in residential zones, we basically told churches at that point, if you ever want to do a daycare center, you can't. That was never our intent. I think it was just kind of an oversight on our part. So what we've done is come up with some amendments to the ordinance to make sure that this is allowed to continue. There are several out there that we know are in existence. Of course, even if this didn't pass, they are grandfathered, so they're not doing anything wrong. But we wanted to be able to make sure that anybody in the future that wanted to do this, any church that wanted to provide this service, could do that under a certain set of criteria. So what we ended up doing after discussion with the Planning Commission is we came up with a set of standards that would apply to all child care centers, no matter where they were located. And that's on the back of that first page under number 4, child care centers, providing an on-site off-street area for vehicles to load and unload. Facilities for vehicular parking access to and from the site shall be arranged to permit vehicles to exit the site without having to back onto the street. That way they can always see what's ahead of them, not trying to back up. Go ahead.
Something you need to add in here, because you got here under D, regulations for child care facilities enforced through other agencies, included but not limited to the Tennessee Department of Human Services must be met. You need to put on there the Tennessee State Fire Marshal's office too.
Well, that's, and I agree with what you're saying, but that's just an example. That was just, well, I'm not saying that that's the only one they have to meet, but any regulations that they would have to abide by.
I know what that, but just putting over human services, that may lead, it does create problems, because I know there's some that doesn't get that approval.
Okay.
And
I
it may
think,
cause some confusion.
and I think something like that, we could probably make that, if you wanted to, you could make that amendment on the floor, because I wouldn't think that's a significant enough change to change the intent of this. I think that could be an amendment, but I'll double check on that to make sure.
Okay.
Because if not, we just have to bring this back to the Planning Commission and then back to the county. I see where you're going with it, though. That makes good sense.
We're just suggesting that it say, but not limited to the Tennessee Department of Human Services and the Tennessee Fire Marshal.
Yeah, and Tennessee State Fire Marshal's office.
In other words, he's made it very, very broad, but you want it a little bit more specific, to
Right.
be sure they are included.
Yeah, because sometimes it gets left out, and then the daycare owner is sitting here,
Sure.
and the plans have not been approved, they're getting ready to open up, and there's problems.
Right.
We see it every day.
Right, and what I'll do is I'll contact our attorney to make sure. I think you are allowed to make just certain amendments to this without having to send it back to the Planning
Right.
Commission, because this, I would think, is minor enough that, I mean, it doesn't change the intent.
Right, I just don't want a daycare owner to be just all of a
Right.
sudden.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right, yeah,
Yeah.
understood. Yeah, no, we can certainly look into that. The additional amendments that you see there, the biggest discussion that we really had the Planning Commission about this is whether to allow it by right or to allow it as a special exception. In other words, if they had their community assembly or their church use, would they be able to do it by right, or would they have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals? After a discussion, the Planning Commission was more comfortable going with the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve these. So those amendments that you see right there really would just put that into effect. So that's really all that does. And that does it, the amendment's the same for all those chapters. One is for residential, one's for office, commercial, industrial, and then the special character areas. So that, it's the same amendment, just throughout the different zones. So that's my report. I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
I got any more questions on any of the reports?
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
made and second approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Highway Department, now report today. Mayor, you got something under, any other bid?
Yes, sir, we have one request. Let me pass this out here. Okay, well, that's sort of coming down. Our county historian, Mr. Greg Tucker, sent us a letter, and the Rutherford County Historical Society has met. What they're asking the county commission to do is to rename a creek. Excuse me. Right now, it's Bushman's Creek, and it crosses, I think, Compton Road and Lascassas Pike. But their research, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War captain named Eusebius Bushnell. You see, Bushnell is not the same name as Bushman. Was the person that owned property in this neighborhood and controlled all this land, and the creek originated there. So in any event, this creek now shows up on our maps as Bushman's Creek, and they request that we correct that name to Bushnell Creek. And that's really what this is all about. This is the first time we've had this kind of request. But they've done their homework and their research, and they think somehow through the course of time, the Bushnell was somehow changed to Bushman's, and they would like for us just to make it correct and accurate to reflect the history of really the origin of that creek.
Who will pay for or how will we
Well-
get the signs?
Well, the signs, there are bridge signs, they say, on two roads, Compton Road and Lascassas Pike. They'll be nominal in cost. I don't know if the highway department has the ability to do that or not, just to change those. And it may be, if the signs are on the state road, maybe the highway department has no liability there. So I don't know about Compton Road. It may be county. But in any event.
Because we bought a machine to do
Compton
signs, but I know it was
Road,
street names. I didn't know if that same machine would make these.
I don't know whether.
Yeah, he made.
Highway. So I think
So then the cost is really
the
minimal.
cost is really gonna be minimal anyway. So if we could,
Well, I move that we change the designation on the county map to Bushnell's Creek and replace the signs on Compton Road and Lascassas Pike to reflect Bushnell's Creek instead of Bushman's Creek.
I'll second.
Could you add on there that copy that'd be sent to the highway department? would
Sure.
it?
oh, yes.
I'll second.
Make those signs and install them. We got a motion and a second. Anybody got any other questions on it?
I would ask that their letter be made part of our record for the meeting.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
And she can attach that with the resolution that we, see it there.
Any other questions or anything else we need? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's all I had.
Anybody got any other bids?
I got something I'd like to
All right.
say. I know all of you here except for Shantos here had an election yesterday, and I want to tell all of you congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know going through 5 elections how hard it is, and I just want to tell you all congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Each and every one of you.
So you had a stress-free election day?
Had a stress-free.
Any other bids?
No, I worked.
Yeah, you had stress, just different.
Anybody get any other?
That's right.
Move adjourn then.
Very good. Thank you.
That's right, Champo. You can sit back and watch it.